What's up, duelists? I'm Smashton or SmashtonYGO, and Yugioh has a little bit of a ban list problem. This video is going to be a little bit more rambly because it's kind of a thought that I've just had in my mind for a while now, and I kind of want to put it out there as an idea and as a discussion topic that you guys can sort of have a back and forth with me down below. Before I begin, I do want to say that if you like these kinds of videos, discussion videos or whatnot, make sure you subscribe to my channel because I do one every week, pretty much as long as I can. Make sure you like the video so I know you like it, and comment down below, A, your thoughts on the discussion of the day, and B, also what kind of topics you would like me to discuss in the future. But right now, I want to talk about what exactly I mean by a ban list problem. And no, I'm not really talking about specifically like any particular ban list itself. We just got a recent one that just took effect early here in January, and by and large, I actually pretty like it a lot. Like, I actually am very happy with it. Some hits don't really make sense, like Circular being banned when it was already at 1 and Mathmech kind of wasn't really doing anything. Those are a little bit weird, but by and large, the big thing being those 3 floodgates that got hit and put to 1. I mean, I would prefer them to be banned, and I kind of wish they would do more, like anti-spell and skill drain and things of that like, but it's a very, very good first step because a lot of those cards, Goes in Match, Tikaboo, Rivalry, they just kind of get plugged into meta decks every now and then and really can just create a lot of non-games that aren't fun at all. And I think that's a really toxic part of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm glad that Konami's recognizing that and hit it. At the same time, I also really enjoy that they seem to be putting a more larger emphasis on maybe not necessarily going second per se, but like setting up or allowing more cards that will let you take your opponent cards, a lot more control cards, a lot more cards that can help you break your opponent's board by using their own threats against them. I'm talking about Change of Heart when that got put to 1. I'm talking about Mind Control. I'm talking about all these other cards that Triple Tack still at 3, Thrust coming out, which gives you easier access to all of these cards. These cards that, when you use them, and if you use them right, can really shift the tide of battle, because not only are you removing a threat, like let's say a Baron that's already used its negate on one of those effects, but you also could potentially take the threat, use it for yourself, kill the opponent. I think that's really fun, and I think that makes board building a whole lot more interesting because I have to take those things into account. What I'm really talking about here is the fact that the ban list kind of dictates all of Yu-Gi-Oh! And what I really mean by that is every format is basically determined by the ban list. And like, that sounds like a no-duh kind of thing, right? But I think the issue I have with it is that Yu-Gi-Oh's biggest problem is what? It's really hard for new players to get into. One of the other biggest problems with Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially in the meta sense, were stuff like the floodgates and non-games and unbreakable boards and going versus too strong and etc, etc, etc. And it feels like because Yu-Gi-Oh! Has the one format and the only format, the ban list kind of has to do all of the work to make sure that that format is as good as it can be without alienating one side of the fan base. Because here's the thing. On one side, you put Change of Heart to 1, or you bring Snatch Steal to 1, right? In the recent ban list, it came back to 1, which, again, goes to my sort of thought process on Yu-Gi-Oh! Is moving towards, like, stealing opponents' monsters and, like, taking control with power spells. We'll see how that actually plays out, but, like, that's going to get the casuals really excited, right? Change of Heart, classic staple. Snatch Steal, classic staple. Like, those things get people excited who casually enjoy the game, and maybe will go try to play it because they can now go use those cards. But then on the other side, I also think that that ban list was a pretty good example of appeasing the meta and like competitive fan base, because you put like the floodgates to 1, right? And you hit some meta decks. And so it kind of reinvigorates the format a little bit. It gets some of the toxicity out of the game. Not all of it. There's still plenty of toxicity in the game, as we know. But it helps alleviate some of that and allows Yu-Gi-Oh! To be a lot more fun to play. But like, I feel like that's the first ban list in a while that I've felt that way about, if ever, right? Like, this feels like kind of a best of both worlds, when usually I find myself pretty unsatisfied by ban lists. It feels like, to me, because the ban list is sort of the be all end all of what is going to shake the meta outside of new release cards, it kind of puts a lot of weight on the ban list and kind of forces the ban list to kind of be like this event, right? Like, the ban list is an event. When it drops, people go nuts. And why do they go nuts? It's because there's just the one format. And it's because this ban list, whatever is on the next ban list, whatever is on the ban list that just dropped, could completely, drastically change and warp how the game will be played for the next few months. And that's like pretty insane. It's pretty powerful. Sure, the new cards that come out every few months, those also will shape how the game will be played, but a ban list can make that just completely irrelevant very quickly. Like, let's take, for example, last year, when Super Heavy Samurai came out along with all those other power cards, and it was really, really good, but it was also super budget, so a lot of people were playing it because it was pretty affordable and really, really powerful. What happened? Very quickly after that, Konami banned Scarecrow, and that deck has not, in its original form, hasn't been relevant ever since. Super Heavy Samurai is kind of like an engine that's used in some decks sometimes, but ever since that one ban list, which was not that far away from those cards releasing, nobody plays that anymore. And like, it completely drastically removed an entire deck from the format, and so the format just kind of got morphed around Pearly and like Hashtira going forward. That's insane that happens, and I think it's a bit of a problem. The case I'm making here is that Yu-Gi-Oh, as it is built, as Konami has molded it at this point, and as how we as a community sort of see the game, especially if you play the modern game, is so heavily influenced by the ban list, and there's so much expectation on a ban list because new cards are always, seem to be anyway, more powerful than the old, right? And like, there's been murmuring about Master Rule 5 or 6 or whatever we're on now. Or maybe Konami's going to do a mass ban list and like reset the power level. So far, neither of those things have happened. And we've been playing the same Yu-Gi-Oh for a while now. And so the only thing that really makes the change is new cards, which almost always just have a archetype or two who is clearly more powerful than everything else and kind of just injects itself into the meta. Or a ban list that just completely changes how we play, and so there's so much expectation for the ban list to be right, and when it's not, or when it's not something that we want as the player, it feels bad. And that's another big problem, is the ban list is never going to satisfy everybody. Take the Circular ban, for instance. For all intents and purposes, probably needed to be banned. Circular was an extremely powerful card, did basically everything that the deck needed it to do. It was literally Salamangreat Gazelle, but like 10 times better for Math Mech. It probably needed to just, at least if you get an errata, or like just not be printed the way it was, but because it was, it probably needed to get banned at some point, just for the sake of Konami saying, hey, these cards are a little too powerful on their own. But like, who did that make? How did that benefit the format? How did that benefit the game? How did that benefit any players? I'm not sure it did. Like, it sort of helps because it might signal that Konami is aware that they're printing some cards that are too powerful, but then they'll do an SP Little Knight, and that card's insanely powerful, and I somehow doubt that that's going to make it on the ban list. And so, all it does is really, it hurt the Math Mech players, who weren't performing anyway, and so I don't really understand that choice, and it's one of those choices where, because it's there, it makes the ban list a little lesser, and it makes us look at the ban list like, wow, it was a good ban list, but also like, why is this here and not this other thing? I know I'm kind of rambling and I'm kind of going off track, but I really just get concerned that so much of this game is centered around what is and isn't banned, and it's honestly just goes back to the thing of, we have the one format, and so little changes like new card releases and a ban list come together to create the ultimate, like, those are what influence the game. Like, players will take those cards, and it will take what is restricted on the ban list and try to just break it to all hell as much as they can and create the best things that are there. And constantly the new releases are always going to be the next best thing, and then the ban list is always going to be the next most influential thing that changes how the game is played. And the other problem is, I remember when this ban list came out, the big thing that I saw a lot of was a lot of highly competitive players saying it wasn't really necessary, and that the ban list kind of like it came, but like the format was already pretty good, so it wasn't like didn't need to be fixed or anything like that. And that creates its own problem, right? Because again, the only way to really inject freshness into this game is through either new card releases, which sometimes can just break the game right then and there, or through a ban list. And it just feels very weird that so much of Yu-Gi-Oh is centered around what cards you take away. I think Yu-Gi-Oh it kind of goes back to that discussion of I think Yu-Gi-Oh needs more formats, because no ban list is going to satisfy all of the casual players and get new players in. That's the biggest problem with Yu-Gi-Oh right now, is that new players cannot get into the game because it's too complicated. And I get that. It's too fast. You sit down for a game of Yu-Gi-Oh and it's just bonkers, right? But no ban list is going to fix that. At the same time, aside from like the last ban list, which I think was fine, but it wasn't like blowing the world away with how good it was for the competitive meta, like no ban list in recent memory has been that amazing for a competitive meta. So I just don't really get the purpose of the ban list at this point for making Yu-Gi-Oh a healthy game, because it's either that it's meant to satisfy casual players, they bring people in by banning really toxic stuff and slowing the game down, which is not doing that very good, or it's meant to satisfy the competitive players by making it more fun, more balanced, more skill-based. It doesn't always do that, and I feel like a lot of times it won't do that. I don't... It's just an interesting thing that I think Yu-Gi-Oh is sort of unique in, to where, like, you know, you play a video game, a competitive video game, and like buffs and nerfs happen and like small changes here and there, and it kind of shifts the meta, like slightly. Maybe this character becomes really good for a while, then it kind of drops off, but like it's always kind of there. But for Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like the ban list is a big deal. It's a really big deal, and I can't really think of any card games like that where the ban list is just such an integral part of what makes the game and what influences the game and makes the game good or bad, or like changes how we play the game. I just think it's really interesting. I think it's something unique to Yu-Gi-Oh, and I'm very curious what you guys think. Make sure you comment down below your thoughts on this whole thing. I know I've been kind of rambling, but I just think it's interesting that Yu-Gi-Oh is so influenced by the ban list, and I'm kind of curious you guys' thoughts down in the comments on what you feel about that. Is Yu-Gi-Oh really influenced by the ban list, or am I kind of blowing it out of proportion? Do you think the ban lists recently have been pretty good, or have they been pretty bad, and why? Are you more casual, or are you more competitive, and how does that influence your decision? Comment down below and let me know. And by the way, if you didn't know, you can join our new Discord, link down below, SmashtonYGO's official Discord server. Join up in there. We're from the ground zero. If you want to chat with me live as I be monitoring the Discord, either on my phone or on my computer next to me, and we can chat Yu-Gi-Oh, get chat Yu-Gi-Oh with a bunch of different people and your friends, and we'll welcome you there. And on top of that, I have also opened up a Patreon. If you are interested in supporting, you will get access to every video from my channel one day early, as well as being able to influence directly any new content that I make going forward, such as directly being able to choose what our next discussion topics on these videos are, being able to have direct access to a VIP room in the Discord that has a direct line to me, and being able to be shout outed at the beginning and end of every video. That sounds interesting to you? Link is also down below. But otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. I hope to hear from you in the comment section below, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Peace.